How did this Good Samaritan project come about in the first place?
It came about because of the need in Fairfield Glade and the surrounding communities. People would retire here in Fairfield Glade. They would live here 15 or 20 years, develop a lot of friends, and then if they reached a point where they needed care with their daily living in some form or another, they had to move back to where they came from or where the kids were at the time. And most people didn't want to do that, but there was nothing here that could accommodate them at that particular time.
Now, who was the guy? Could you tell us about who first started the conversation?
The conversation first started on this particular effort. Let me back up a minute. There was an effort in 1990 to bring a campus like this here, but there wasn't enough population to support it at that time. And then in the year 2000, there was another attempt, but it didn't get off the ground. In 2002, we had a new minister at the Fairfield Glade Methodist Church, and my wife happened to be the president of the
Council of Stewards?
Yeah, Council of Stewards at that time. And the new minister began to realize this need because he was having to visit a lot of people that were having to move away. And so the first thought was, well, we'll contact McHenry Village in Nashville, which is a Methodist organization, and see if they'd be interested in developing something here. So we had some discussions with them, and they showed a lot of interest. But it turned out that they weren't able to do it because of financial issues and other issues that came to the front when they really started looking seriously at the project. So then we had to start looking beyond McHenry Village. And that's when we got another group involved. People from the community club, Harvey Hoffman, who was then the general manager of the community club, Jim McMacken, who was then the president and CEO of the community of Crossville Community Hospital. And then we had, drawing a blank here now, that was 15 years ago.
Right.
And we had somebody from the Fairfield builders. And then we had myself, my wife, Joy, and I believe that was about it. And the main thing we wanted to establish during that meeting was whether or not Wyndham, or the predecessor to Wyndham, would be willing to donate some land for this project. And in those discussions, we received a verbal commitment from Fairfield Homes to donate some land for the project. And there was a lot of other searching too to see if there was available land and just how much land might be available. So Bill Carter from Fairfield Homes helped us out with that. And he verbally committed to give us like 24, 25 acres. When the stipulation was that could only be given to a not-for-profit organization, could not give it to an organization who was in it for the profit. So with that verbal commitment, it encouraged us to start talking to other folks. And we found out pretty quickly that the field narrowed a great deal when the stipulation of its having been given to a not-for-profit. Then we began to talk to other folks about the project, and most of them just took a cursory look at the size of this community and they said it's not big enough to support, what the kind of a campus we're talking about. They didn't look at the age distribution here. But when we talked to Good Samaritan Society out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, it became apparent to them that there was a sufficient population here to support a development, and they were interested in looking at the project. And so they did a lot of due diligence, and they were even more interested because of the demographics here. And then we continued to meet with them. They came down and talked to the community. They held small focus groups to get a handle on what people's expectations were, and also to acquaint us with their organization and what they had to offer. Then they said they wanted to go ahead with it if, in fact, the land was going to be donated. And shortly thereafter, we received a clear title, or they received, Good Samaritan Society received a clear title to the 23 acres where the campus is located now. So it's been a long trip. It didn't happen overnight. It took us, from the time the task force was formed until people started moving in here, took approximately 7 years. But it's worked out well. We have a beautiful campus. It's worked so well that Good Samaritan Society is doubling the capacity of this campus to accommodate the demand that's still in this area. Because still, even with this campus that we have now, there are people that are having to leave to go back where the kids are because we don't currently have enough capacity to satisfy all the needs that exist. So, and there's a waiting list for cottages, there's a waiting list for assisted living, so we're hoping that the addition to this campus will enable people to stay and enjoy living here among their friends where they've known for the past 20 or 25 years. And sometimes the children question whether or not this is the place for their parents, and they come and look around, talk with staff and so forth, and they go away believing that this is the best place for their parents at this stage of their lives.
Kyle, could you talk just briefly about how the community came together and raised the money in a short time for phase one?
I mentioned the fact that this all started in the Methodist Church, and we believed initially that the Methodist Church could handle the project, but it turned out, since McHenry Village wasn't interested in doing the project, we decided that we would try to get the other churches within Fairfield Glade to participate. And when we offered each of the church an opportunity to participate, they were very anxious to do so. And they were even willing to help us establish the task force. We had a representative from 7 churches on the task force, and they helped